And now for the next one. So we're going to be starting at the top shelf here. This is my Whitebeard Pirates Marineford shelf. Starting on the left, we have the Masterlize X-Piece Vista, which I think is a great figure, and then next to him is an Ichiban Kuji Whitebeard and Luffy. So these two are taken straight from the manga panel from that one moment during Marineford. So I like having them displayed together. Then next to them, we have Jozu, Ace, and Marco. So these three are from the same Ichiban Kuji set, and so is the Vista. They're all four from that same set. And I like how the Jozu and Marco are taken straight from moments in the manga also, just like the Whitebeard and Luffy there. Those are from an older Ichiban Kuji set, from two separate sets, like maybe around 2010, I think those came out. And I wasn't even collecting figures back then, so by the time I bought it, it was already like a 5 or 6 year old figure. And to this day, it's still one of my favorite Luffys in my whole collection. I think it's one of the best representations of Luffy in a figure. But yeah, both of those are straight from the manga, so is Jozu and Marco. And I'm not sure about Ace and Vista. Then next to Marco is Hancock and Gloriosa. It's the first WCF of her, the one that I mentioned earlier. Then we have a WCF Moria from that Seven Warlords WCF party set. And behind him is the Soul Gorgeous statue Mihawk. And I really like this one. It's probably my favorite Mihawk figure out there. And now for the top section, starting on the right. So here we have the Moby Dick from the Grand Line ship line. And they didn't make many in that line, just this and the Sunny, maybe the Mary, I'm not sure, but yeah, this is a line I really would have liked to have seen continue, because I know they have that other like model ship line where they do a lot of different One Piece ships, but those are more like models. You got to break them off the little plastic pieces, put them together, and they do come with stickers, but they look best if you paint them. And I just never get around to doing it, so I prefer ones like this where it's already painted. And even this one does come with a few stickers, but for the most part, everything's already painted. Then next to the Moby Dick is the Mega WCF Whitebeard. Everything about this one is really good. I like the gold trim on the coat. The coat could also come off. He's got the tattoo on the back. The inside of the coat looks great too, and so does the face. I think overall it's just a really great Whitebeard. Then next to him is the WCF Moby Dick and the Supermodeling Soul Little Oars Jr., which is pretty small for a figure of an ancient giant. Like anytime there's a figure of a giant or an ancient giant from One Piece, I would like it to be pretty big, but at least this figure exists because it's like the only one out there of Little Oars Jr., aside from the WCF and maybe a little minifigure or two. But yeah, this one was part of the Whitebeard Pirates Supermodeling Soul set, and in order to get him, you had to buy all the other figures because he was a build-a-figure thing, so each figure that you buy from the set would come with one piece of Little Oars Jr. Then if you get them all, you could build them. And next to him is the Grand Line Series Special, Whitebeard's Gravestone. And they also released a Whitebeard alongside it, where if you bought the Whitebeard and the Gravestone, you could take the coat off of the Gravestone and put it onto the Whitebeard figure. I think I got mine from the Burning Blood Collector's Edition. That was another way you could get both of those figures. At least in the US, they came bundled together in the Burning Blood Collector's Edition. So that's it for this shelf. There's 15 figures here. And now let's move down to the My Hero Academia shelf. So I have 8 figures in this one, and I have them set up in kind of a symmetrical mirrored way. Like the 2 in the middle are about the same height, then the 2 next to them are really short. Then next to the 2 short ones, there's 2 really tall figures. And next to the tall figures are 2 kind of regular sized figures. So let's start off with those 2. We have All Might and Endeavor, and they're both sculpted by the same guy, Iwakura Keiji. He sculpts a lot of my favorite figures. We've already seen a lot of my collection that are sculpted by him, like the Zod, the Guts, the Uvogan, the Hybrid Ulti, the Mihawk, and now these 2, and there's still some more to come. But yeah, I really like his style. He does like really muscly veins and wrinkly looking clothing. Oh, and also the Gear 4th Kongun Luffy, that was another one that's sculpted by him. Also the Big Mom and Kaido that I showed earlier. Then behind them, I have another All Might and another Endeavor. So these 2 are part of the Masterlize Extra line, and so is that Golden All Might that I showed earlier. It's actually using the same sculpt as this All Might, but they just modified the arm to be sticking straight out. And they also changed the angle of the head a little bit, but other than that, it's like the exact same sculpt there, which is something I've noticed they like to do with these My Hero Academia Ichiban Kuji figures. They also did it recently with Endeavor, the same Endeavor. They're releasing another one, but without all the flames, and there's a few other differences, a whole different head sculpt, I think. Which isn't a huge deal if they can make the figure look different enough while still reusing some of the same aspects, but eventually it gets to the point where I'm like, why are you releasing the same sculpt again for a 3rd time? Like there's a 3rd All Might coming out. And I do see portions of it that are identical to the 1st and 2nd release of the Masterlize All Might. And even with that being said, I am still considering getting the 3rd Masterlize Extra All Might. Though I do wish they would just make a completely new one. And same thing goes to the Endeavor if they ever make a 3rd one of him. But yeah, it is what it is. It's not like it takes my enjoyment away from these figures. I love the All Might, I love the Endeavor. I think they're 2 really great figures. And next we have Young Midoriya and Bakugo. But yeah, they're pretty good. The Midoriya has some shading in his hair, and I really love how he's holding the All Might toy. Like, that's one of my favorite things about the series, how he always has the All Might merch, the All Might toys in his room. I think they've actually made most of those figures as real figures, so those would be something fun to get at some point. Then behind them, we have two Masterlize figures, Lady Naga and Shigaraki. And they're pretty nice. I especially like the paint job on Lady Nagon's dress. Like, it just looks really nice, really well done. Almost a bit above average when it comes to Ichiban Kuji figures. And even on her waistband thing, they have like those lines colored in. And her hair is nicely done too. You can see like those pink undertones under the purple. But it's just not accurate. Her actual hair has like big pink clumps, pink strands of hair that are really visible. It's not like a pink undertone hiding under her purple hair. So that's my biggest complaint with this one. I guess my only complaint really. And the rifle looks pretty well done too. And now for Shigaraki. So this is a good one too. He has all the hands on him and they have some decent shading on them. Then you can see his dry skin on his hands, his chest, especially on his forehead there. Then his lips are cracking. And I like how this one has an actual base. Like most Masterlize come with that kind of foot base that you see on the other ones here, but I always prefer it when figures come with a base like this that doesn't take up a whole bunch of space but makes the figure really sturdy. Because the types of stands that go around the leg like that aren't always too stable. Like lots of times they'll wobble, sometimes they'll kind of fit really loosely around the legs. So I think this is like the best middle ground is the type of base that the Shigaraki has. And now for some more One Piece figures. So there's 13 figures in this shelf. And a few of them were sculpted by Iroquois Keiji, who I just mentioned in the previous shelf. So the ones that were sculpted by him in this shelf are the Figuart Zero Momo, the Hybrid Form Yamato, and the Sulong Duke Dogstorm, and Master Cat Viper. Now let's take a look at each of them, starting with this Yamato. So this one comes in 4 colors. The one that I got is called the Brush. And I think it's a pretty good figure. I like this one. I like the coloring of the hair, the pose of it. You can see the gradient on the horns, and she does have that attack almost blocking her face. It really depends what angle you're looking at it from. Like if you look at it from a certain height, it will be blocking her face. And I feel like every figure has a best height to be displayed at. Like when it comes to the Momo here, I didn't want that one on a top shelf because I didn't want to be looking up at him. I wouldn't even be able to see his eyes. So he's one I want to be looking a little more downwards at. But yeah, this Momo is a great figure. It's one of my favorite Figuart Zeros. Then next to him, we have Shinobu. So I tried displaying this one without that little pink support block in between her legs, but it didn't take long for her to start leaning forward, so I had to put it back in there. And it's a little awkward looking, like it's just a pink block. Like they could have made it black maybe, or even clear, but with it being pink, it kind of blends in with her whole body. But it's not really a big deal, just something I think they could have done a little different, a little better. But yeah, that's Shinobu, and then next to her, we have the Masterlize X-Bloom, Komurasaki. So this is a really good one. I feel like out of all the figures of her, this one does the best job capturing the Komurasaki look. She has like those unique looking eyes where they're kind of almost slanted, and I think the rest of the figure just looks great too. And then next to her, we have the Grand Line Series Tama and Denjiro, then another Komurasaki down there. I like how this one's playing the shamisen, but I do wish that they had like an optional mask you could put on this one. And the top of her kimono is kind of lacking some colors. Like looking at the other Komurasaki, you can see more of those little flower patterns on the top half of her kimono, but this one is just like flat red. But whatever, it's good enough for what it is. And I do wonder what a portrait of pirates of her would look like. I feel like that could be a really great figure if they ever did decide to make one. Like maybe they could do one like this, playing the shamisen, come with the optional mask, or even one of her standing up like that could look great too. But you never know what Mega House is going to choose to make, and I'm really happy with this Masterlize X-Bloom one right here anyway. Then next up we have the Sulongs. So both of these are just amazing. I really love the sculpts of both of them, but I do wish that the Master Cat Viper was colored white instead of yellow. Because no matter what color a mink is, all of them turn white when they go into their Sulong form. But he's still probably one of my favorites in my whole collection. They just did such a great job with the sculpt on him. I really love the face and all the fur surrounding it. I mean, really just everything about this figure I think is great. And so is the Duke Dogstorm. I like how on this one they put some blue in it, kind of like the moonlight shining on him. Though maybe on the tail it's a bit much, but I think it looks pretty nice. And then, yeah, I just love the sculpting on the fur on the arms, the fur around his face, the clothing. These are the types of figures I really just enjoy staring at. And next up is the Masterlize X piece Hiyori. So this is my favorite figure of her in this look. They have the Grand Line Series one, the Glitter and Glamours one, but what I don't like about those two is that the flower patterns aren't colored in. Like on the Glitter and Glamours one, they're all blank, and then on the Grand Line Series one, a few of them are colored and the rest are blank. So the Masterlize X piece one is the only figure of her in this look that has all the little flower patterns actually colored. So that's one of the reasons I chose this one over the other two. And aside from the flowers, I think the rest of the figure looks good too. Then next up we have the hybrid form Yamato. So this is one that I've actually bought twice. The first time I bought it, I ended up selling it to make some space. Then later on I realized I wanted it back, so I bought it again, and I do like it. It's not that I didn't like it. Like I said, I just wanted to make space, and yeah, now it's back. So I don't really have anything negative to say about this one. I pretty much like everything about it. I like the pose, I like the hair on the back. It's kind of like cloudy looking. Then next to her is the Masterlize X piece Adult Momo. So the pose for this one is taken straight from the manga, and it matches it pretty perfectly. I always like when they make figures like that. So this one's pretty good, but the back of his hair does have a whole bunch of seams in it, which you're not going to see when looking at the front of him like this, but they are back there. And now for the final figure of the shelf, the Beyond the Level Law. So this one's pretty decent. I like it. I like how his coat has this little kind of texture to it. I also like the paint job on the pants and how you can see his sword inside of his attack. And next up we have another Wano shelf. So there's 11 figures in this one. And yeah, Wano was such a long, big arc. There were so many figures coming out throughout those years, and I bought a lot of them, so I just couldn't avoid dedicating at least 2 shelves to Wano. Like, I could pretty easily fill another shelf or 2 with Wano figures, but I didn't want it to consume my whole collection. So in order to keep it to just 2 shelves, I did have to put away some of my Wano stuff. Alright, so in this shelf, there's a few more figures sculpted by Iwakura Keiji, and I'm just going to keep pointing those ones out as I go through the rest of my collection. Cause a good amount of the figures I own are sculpted by him. His figures always stand out to me, they're always really interesting to look at. So the figures that were sculpted by him in this shelf are this young Kaido, and I'm pretty sure the king too. I mean, it does have the same type of base, and he doesn't sculpt every figure with the veiny muscles. He also sculpted this Jack, this hybrid Kaido, this Queen, and the Dragon Kaido. So let's start off with the Page 1 and Ulti. These two are part of the Ichiban Kuji Tobiroppo set, and so is that Black Maria back there. And I do have the full set, but not all of them fit in here, so those are some of the ones I had to put away. But yeah, here's Page 1 and Ulti. They're pretty good, they have some shading on them, and none of the figures in this set actually hook into the chairs, so it's fun seeing what spots I can find to sit them on. Like, you can sit them on the edge of the shelf, or really just anywhere, but some of them do kind of tip forward if they don't have the support of the floor under their feet. Then up there in the back we have the huge Black Maria. So I'm really glad they made this one, because before this the only figure they had of her was that, I think it was a Masterlize X-Bloom figure, but yeah, whatever it was pretty small. And something I've always wanted to do since I've had this set is to make a little model Japanese room for them. So maybe at some point I'll get around to doing that. Then down there in the corner, we have the WCF Onigashima. And behind it is the Figure Art Zero Dragon Kaido. So this time when I organized and set up my collection, I paid attention to a lot of little things, like how the figures in each shelf looked in relation to the figures in the shelf above them or below them. And these 2 shelves are where it made the biggest difference for me, because at one point I had Kaido directly below Momo, and it just didn't flow good. It didn't mesh well looking at both the shelves as kind of one cohesive thing. It just didn't look nice to my eyes to be seeing 2 very similar looking dragons directly below and above each other. So by putting Kaido on the other side, I feel like it made the shelves look more connected, like almost like they're 2 halves of one bigger display. But yeah, as for the figure itself, I think it's pretty good. And next up we have the Ichiban Kuji Queen. So there aren't many choices when it comes to Queen figures. There's this one, then there's also the other Ichiban Kuji one in his hybrid form. And of course the usual things like some WCFs, maybe a few minifigures, but if you're wanting like a regular type of figure of Queen with regular proportions, this is really the only choice. And if they never make another one, I'm glad they at least made this one, because for me it's like the perfect Queen figure. There's not really anything I could say I don't like about it. He just looks really great all around, and I especially like how they sculpted the neck rolls. Then behind him we have Kaido in his hybrid form. So I'm surprised there's not more figures of Kaido in this form. Like, I would think by now they would have at least had like a Figure Art Zero, but with it being Kaido, I feel like we will see more eventually. And this Kaido is from the same set as the Yamato on the shelf above, so you could display those 2 fighting each other, and there's also a Luffy from the set that you can display fighting this Kaido also. So I like that there's all those options within this set. And the Kaido itself looks pretty good too. Though he does have these 3 pretty noticeable support stands, but they're kind of hidden behind King's wings here, so they don't stand out too much the way I have him displayed. Then yeah, below him is King, and this is a good one. I like the pose, I like the face on this one, and also the coloring of the flames on his back and sword. I like how there's a few shades of orange in there rather than just one. Then next to him we have little Albert and young Kaido, and both of these are part of the Soul Gorgeous statue line. I actually had both of these just sitting around in their boxes for at least a year, then I finally opened them up when I was setting up this shelf, and They really just helped to complete the look because I couldn't figure out exactly what to put there. Then I remembered, oh, I have those two. So yeah, I opened them up and they just fit perfectly here. So yeah, young little Albert looks good, and so does Kaido over there. He's kind of got a strut going on. Then behind them we have Jack. So he's from the same Ichiban Kuji set as these two, and he's also a Soul Gorgeous statue. I just love everything about this one, the sculpt of it, the pants, the body, the veins in the arms, all the muscles, and also his sleeveless vest coat thing, or whatever it is you would call what he's wearing. And the paint job all throughout the figure is pretty decent also. Alright, so that was the second shelving unit with a total of 47 figures. And if you're wondering why I'm using garage shelving as opposed to like a bookshelf or a cabinet or any other type of shelving, I just wanted something that was easy to move around, easy to take apart. I like how they're adjustable, and I also like the dimensions because when I was looking at some bookshelves, none of them were this deep, so I wouldn't have been able to fit 2 rows of figures in them. And I have thought about customizing these ones by adding some lights in there and covering up the back, sides, and front so that it wouldn't get so dusty, but that's just not my main focus right now. I'm enjoying it just fine as it is. Though if I think about the end goal for my collection, I do eventually want to get some really nice big wooden cabinets. But now just isn't the time for that. I don't want anything permanent and heavy right now. Right now these are the perfect thing for me, and I think they will be for a long while longer. So that'll be it for part 2.